Stories versus examples. Everywhere we hear about how important stories are because we grew up, our ancestors used to tell stories, and how stories are important to transfer ideas and such and such. So we hear that everywhere. But what I like to say is to compare the two, stories versus examples, because I think there is an abundance in overuse of stories. Every book you read is just concentrated around examples. About stories. A lot of stories. It could be dozens of stories, and there's a story, talk a little bit about the story, another story, and another story, and another story. Sometimes it gets too much, especially for me. The problem with stories is that sometimes it's hard, especially if the author is not very good at telling stories. It's really hard to pay attention, or sometimes the story is not interesting, not important, too long. There's a lot of problems with stories. Examples, however, could be fictional. Examples, you can create the example. Therefore, we have much more control on the story. So it's a story too, but it's an example. It can be very simple, very short, straightforward, and tell you exactly what you need to know. The reason people give stories is to show something, help us to remember. Apparently we can remember stories better than just pure ideas or pure data. Therefore, stories are good. But examples, I think, incorporates those two. So you can have a story about something, you can create a name, a fictional name, fictional idea, but that is directly related to what you're trying to teach, or you have like an instructive lesson, or what you're trying to transfer, what you're trying to say here. Stories, sometimes something happened, and from that to the instructive lesson and what it's trying to teach you is not a direct way. It's kind of like, yeah, and therefore it's hard to remember. I would agree that some of the stories are great, some stories are really great and should be used, but the overuse of them, especially authors like to talk about stories from their own lives, sometimes are not as good, and I think should be used less. So examples, I think, are superior in a way when comparing to stories, and should be used more. As I said, it's simpler, shorter, and has many other benefits. That's the idea. Thank you.